thank you for clicking on our link. We are so excited about this video, and we just came up with it yesterday about what we're going to talk about, but it is probably one of our favorite topics because it's about us. It's telling your story.
Yay, jazz hands.
One of the most powerful tools and probably one of the most beneficial things about being a peer support. Constructing your story, learning how to tell it, learning how to use it as a tool in helping other people. What do you think?
You know, I'll start off with my favorite thing, which is a quote. It's by Maya Angelou, and it goes, "There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you." And, you know, it just, telling my story opened up my world. You know, I attended the Respect Institute in Georgia, where you spend a week learning to tell your recovery story. And it was just a jumping off point. And, you know, since that time, I've been able to tell my story in front of providers, in front of community meetings, and my peers. That's probably the most important place that I've told my story, is to my fellow peers. You know, and it's what I'll say about your story. It is probably the most powerful tool to stamp out stigma that you can have.
So what's so hard about telling the story? It is your story, right? Well, there are a lot of obstacles to telling the story. First of all, public speaking. What is it? Jerry Seinfeld did the stand-up about how number one fear is public speaking, number two fear is death.
Yeah.
So people would rather die than stand up and public speak. It's difficult to public speak anyway, but then when you're speaking about something that's so personal, that is surrounded by absolute stigma, it can be terrifying. I would say, if I were to give any advice, and when I do give advice to people that are looking to tell their story, is be really careful about how much you share. If you're not comfortable about some of the details of sharing your story, you don't want to spend the next week ruminating about what you said and worried about what people are thinking about you. Practice what you want to say and make sure that you have gone through all of kind of the emotions surrounding the things that you want to tell. Telling your personal story can connect with people on a level that you just can't connect with on a clinical level, or even if you're just kind of talking to a friend and listening to what they have to say. If you're telling someone, I have been through this, people connect if they've been through a similar experience, or if they have a loved one that's experienced the same thing. And it can transcend anything, and it can transform people's experience and how they even look at their own experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you know, the good thing is about public speaking, it helps to know your topic. And hopefully nobody is more of an expert on you than you.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
That is hope.
That might be some groundwork you need to do before you tell your story. Yeah, and it's, you know, with public speaking, you've got the stage. You can tailor it exactly how you want to do it to reach your audience. It's your time. And what you want to go, I know I mentioned what you want to go for, and I mentioned this in some of our earlier sessions, is the Me Too's. I always write it through the lens of, will a person that's in the audience connect with what I'm saying and get something from it? And, you know, that is the case. You know, kind of the greatest thing that I can receive from the audience when I'm telling my story is nods. You know, if somebody's nodding, man, that just lifts my world up. So, you know, it's important. I didn't even tell her my story, and but yeah. So, and you know, the more you tell it, the better you get at it.
Yes.
And this one right here is a master storyteller in front of an audience. I mean, you just give her a topic and she can talk at length about it and just make a super big impression on people.
So on that note, Jody and I are going to individually tell you how we got to the point now where telling our story has become almost second nature. For me, the journey was not easy. I'm a pretty good public speaker now, but when I started, it was ugly. And a lot of the reason why is because I was afraid of getting judgment. I was afraid that if people heard what I had been through, but also if they heard that I was diagnosed with OCD and basically deemed mentally ill, I was worried about the judgment that I would receive back. So that was an obstacle I had to get over. What helped was being able to become an expert in the craft of speaking. When I didn't have to worry about that anymore, all of a sudden I could plow through all the emotional parts of it. So I started by going to a local Toastmasters chapter here at Cherry Creek. That is a great avenue to go down if you want to start speaking about your story. Even if you don't want to be a public speaker, but you want to learn how to construct a story or anything, Toastmasters is a good avenue because you get a lot of feedback. It's a safe environment, and you make friends while you're learning how to talk out loud and how to construct a speech. I was there for probably about a year and a half, and it was a journey for sure. But the more I would get up and talk about my story, each time I spoke, I'd get a little more in depth and a little more comfortable. I would stretch myself a little bit. The feedback that I got I couldn't have done without it. It was other people watching me giving constructive feedback. If you did this, maybe you could add this. And then as I started to branch out of Toastmasters, then I was just kind of able to stretch my public speaking legs or vocals. I don't know that. But that's how I got started. And eventually it just turned into I really love public speaking and I'm pretty good at it. So that's why I continued to do that on the path. But if you really want to learn how to do it and do it effectively, find a group like Toastmasters. And they're everywhere. In whatever city you're in, it's not that much to join usually, but it's a great way to get started.
Yeah. And, kind of the thing that has helped me the most is rehearsing. Mm-hmm. You can rehearse in
front of me.
Exactly.
That's what
She's my number one
it.
rehearsal partner. But, the mirror, if you don't have an audience, use the mirror. Mm-hmm. And, another thing that's helped me too recently is TED Talks. Get your story out in 18 minutes. Take that amount of time. And Chrissie's excellent at this. One thing I've noticed in her speeches and the speakers at the TED Talks conventions, they're not in a hurry.
Right.
They're not afraid to pause. And that was my biggest obstacle. If I had to collect my thoughts, then I would have anxiety. And, I would put this undue pressure on myself to get the words out. And so, after that moment of pause, if the idea came to my head, I would just rush to get it out. And so, I've learned to take my time. And
so what you're saying is that watching TED Talks has helped you by watching other speakers, mm-hmm. You've gotten tips on how to be a better speaker. That's a great idea.
Yeah. And, the other thing too is the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
And that, I was reading or listening to a talk about Steve Jobs and his presentation secrets. Somebody, saw one of his first presentations and he was visibly nervous and he was taking notes. And we all know how well Steve Jobs was as a presenter, mm-hmm. Once he got his feet under him. So, if somebody like Steve Jobs is nervous and needs papers to give a speech, take solace in that, you may have to start out that way too. But if you stay with it and you work at it.
Practice.
Yes, you can get there.
So what are the benefits then of telling the story? Because I hear this a lot in advocacy. I want to get to the point where I can tell my story. I want to be able to open up. And I think not only on a stage, but just to be able to tell your story one-on-one with people. What are the benefits of being able to learn how to be confident in telling the story? Mm-hmm. For me, absolute healing. It was the start of shoving me into the final stages of recovery. I hid my story for years and years and years, even from some of my really good friends, because I was so terrified of what they would think. And finally, I just thought, I am sick of this. I'm tired of feeling like crap. I'm just going to start telling people. And the benefits have outweighed any of the fears that I ever thought. I mean, and in fact, the opposite happened when I started talking to people about what I've been through. I've rarely gotten any sort of judgment. I've rarely gotten any sort of rejection. I'm not saying that it won't happen, because it has, and it's happened to me. But the more I have connected with more people on a deeper level and helped other people be able to use their own voice to tell their story, and personally, it's just leaps and bounds. I've learned to love myself more, accept my illness, and accept that I have the illness more, all because I took that chance and decided to speak up and just kind of throw caution and judgment to the wind. And my life is just richer because of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I read this quote yesterday by Gandhi, and it's very simple. It said, "My life is my message." And, I feel like I want to adopt that. What telling my recovery story has done for me is it's given my life a purpose. Mm-hmm. It takes courage. It takes a certain amount of vulnerability to put yourself out there.
Yes.
But that's what I would say is let your life be your message,
mm-hmm.
And because everybody has a story to tell. And the beauty of a speech is you get to tailor it and get your message across exactly like you want to get it across.
My final thoughts on this topic, and it is one of my favorite topics, I'm sure we're going to address it in more videos, are you may think that you don't have a story and that your struggle and your life with mental illness isn't going to benefit anyone, or it may not help you to get it out loud. I just want to tell you that it does. And just because we have a mental illness doesn't mean all of the stereotypes and the stigmas that we tend to place on ourselves. It doesn't mean we're damaged goods. It doesn't mean that we don't deserve a good life. And your story needs to be told. I've said this to Jody before, and I'm just going to say it. It is our duty to break down stigma, to change the way that mental health is looked at. It is our job and our duty to tell our story. That's how it's going to change, and it's slowly changing right now, but we need you. We need you and your story. We need you to join us and to join this huge movement. We can't do it without more people coming out and talking about what they've been through and how hard it's been, but how much you've triumphed. We need to hear your story too. So please do what you can to get to a point where you're ready to talk about it. If you need our support, if you need our help, please contact us. We'd be happy to help you or help you find a local Toastmasters chapter. We're at Jody and Chrissie, JODYANDCHRISSIE @gmail.com. Please reach out to us if you want some help in constructing your story. But those are my final words. It's up to us. It's our job and it's our duty as advocates to move forward and change it for the people coming up, the way that everyone looks at mental health.
Yeah, I mean, this is truly a grassroots effort.
Yes.
We've got a tough job ahead of us because of our treatment in the media. But, without your voice, that's the perception and, what's going to be stuck in the minds of people that are not living with a mental health challenge. So this is our opportunity. We're at a turning point in history where, if enough voices are heard, we can win the fight.
Yep.
So, I encourage you, do some soul searching, get your story out there.
Yes.
And let's fight this stigma.
And maybe on our next video, which will be next week after Jody gets back from the South. Yay!
Cultural retraining.
Y'all. Maybe next week we can talk about some tips on how to tell the story, because there are a ton of things that both Jody and I have very different styles. So there are a ton of things that we can talk about of just ways to start learning how to construct and learning how to speak out loud. Why don't we do that?
That sounds great.
All right. So I hope you enjoyed this segment. We sure did. We love talking about ourselves. That's why we love telling our story.
I'm so narcissistic.
Y'all have a great week. Thank you so much for clicking, and please share this with your friends and anybody who needs to hear it. And please share the story. It is the most powerful tool in the toolbox.
Let your life be the message.
Love it. Bye.